3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it.
Ooh, I still like that intro. I can't understand what I was thinking that day when I made it. I must have been gifted. Anyway, welcome along to another episode of Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan. How's your week been? What have you been up to? It's been pretty frantic here because I finally got the paint to paint the front room. I'm dead excited about that. The small things, eh? The small things. Gigging seems to be coming back, so I've been plenty busy. If there are any English teachers out there listening to me, I do apologise for my mispronunciations and misuse of the passive subjective verb. If I don't even know what I'm talking about. Anyway. So, it's been a kind of strange one. The clocks went back on Saturday night, because obviously it's Monday now. Clocks went back. I love this time of year. This is my time now. It's cold, it's dark, it's rainy, it's wet. When you lot are all enjoying the sunshine with your slim beach bodies, us chubbies are praying for the days of autumn. And it's here! Hey! I like the fact that it gets dark at 4 o'clock in the evenings. I like it that it's cold. You have to put the heating on, or you put a fire on. And nothing better than watching a film with a blanket or in your onesie if you're like an Essex person, like I am. But it's funny because the weather and the seasons, they're just like mental well-being. Okay, we all experience the same thing, but in different ways. So today pretty cold, pretty grey, pretty damp. I loved it. It's a good day for me. But you may enjoy the sunshine and the bright blue skies. So in which case, it's a bad day for you. So we're both experiencing the same thing, but in different ways. It's very subjective. Anyhow, let me just stop waffling on like this. What can I tell you about this week's guest? It's just an honour. It's a pleasure. As you go through life, you meet very, very few people that you think, yeah, they're good. They're the good guys. Most people are all right. Some people are bums, and then you got the extremes either side. This guy is in one of the extremes either side. He's in the top extreme because he's one of the most kind, caring, generous human beings that you'll ever meet. He spends most of his time trying to make other people rich, which is why he's not wealthy himself yet, but it will be. He has recently taken on the old Jongleurs chain, and with its awful name and reputation, and almost single-handedly in a few months just turned it around with the assistance of his great team at the Jongleurs company. So he's probably the funniest Armenian comedian in the southeast of England. I believe there is a funny guy up in Birmingham. I'm not sure where. I'm sure Kevin will know. But what's lovely about this guy is that he's British, but he's not afraid to mention where he's from and who he is. You may have seen him on cruise ships, you may have seen him on television, but you're certainly going to see a lot more of him over the next year or two if they find the bodies. I'm proud to call this guy my friend, and if I weren't doing comedy, I'd be friends with him and I'd go and watch him anyway. But the fact that I do comedy means I get to see him for free and hang out with him. So what can I tell you? Please, a proper welcome to everyone to the fantastic Mr. Kev Orkian. Kev Orkian! Where are you, my friend? There he is. There's our boy. I've got to unmute the microphone. There you go.
There you go.
Again. How are you?
I'm all right.
Look at you.
All right. I have to say, what an intro. Thank you.
You've accessorized your kitchen cupboards, your T-shirt and your mug. You're just so professional.
Well, I'm not in my house. I'm actually in Thursford. So,
there you go.
So
tell us what you're doing in Thursford, Kev.
Well, I'm doing the Thursford Christmas Spectacular for the next 8 weeks. So I arrived today.
Yeah.
And I started rehearsals today. I actually did my bow. I rehearsed my bow today.
Brilliant. Would you like to show us your bow, Kev? Show us your bow. Go on. Do it. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen. Of course, Mr. Kev Orkian. Look at that. Brilliant. Thank you. That's great. Will you be dressed like Rupert the Bear when you're doing the actual
No,
shows?
these are my pajamas, my friend.
Oh,
Okay.
mate.
I love Cape Town because I went there and I'm one of the longest serving comics at the Cape Town Funny Festival. And my trousers, all right, okay, yeah. Okay.
Give us a look. Look at that. That's your panto. There's your panto thigh there, wasn't it? Well, bless me. So, how you been, mate? What have you been up to?
Just, you know what? It's been manic because obviously you and I know that the last 18 months have been a little bit quiet on the old entertainment part. Well, dead on the entertainment part. Let's be honest. And now it's just picked up and it's crazy picked up. You know, people are just like, it's funny. It's like panic buying. So people are going, oh, I need this. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need that. Oh, I need this. So we're just taking booking after booking after booking. So we've kind of gone from zero to hero within 3 months, which is great. But I'm very, very, very stubborn when it comes to quality. I want the events to be well. You know that because you and I have teamed up on many of the Jonglers events recently, and they've got to be quality. They've got to be good, and getting to that level takes time. It's organic, but I don't want to compromise on it. So it's been very difficult because we've got so many inquiries, and I'm having to make sure that each one is very, very, is very important to us. So yeah, it's been hard from that side of the world, and then from me, just like you said earlier, I'm in Thursford. I'm working very, very hard to try and keep the career above board, and trying to do new material, trying to do this, trying to do that. So yeah, it's fun. Put it that way, it's fun.
Okay, well, that's good. Tell us about the Armenian connection then. What's that all about? Where is Armenia, Kev? Tell us where it is. Is it near Narnia?
Well, it could be. It could be. But Armenia is very much it's east of Turkey, west of Russia, and it's a fantastic little country with a population of about 4 million. And in 301 AD, they were the first country in the world, or the first nation in the world, sorry, to have adopted Christianity as their religion. So basically, we have that pride, saying that we were the first people to adopt Christianity as our religion. So yeah, that's kind of who we are. And there's a lot of us around the world, and you know who they are, like the Kim Kardashians through to the Andre Agassi's. Through to recently, Serena Williams married the Armenian Alex Ohanian, who was, is a very big in IT, as you know, in Mac OS X, and then obviously Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, who married an Armenian as well. So we get around a bit, John. I've got to be honest with you, but that's what Armenians are, and that's who. And
what about the car park? What about the bloke who parks his boat on the mountain? What's his story?
Well, there's this geezer apparently who kind of went, I need all the animals 2 by 2 into my ark, and I put them all in there. There's blood coming. And the blood came, and then 40 days and 40 nights later, he sent out a white dove, came back with a branch, and the rest is history. They parked the entire Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat.
He could have chosen any country in the world, right? Could have got Scotland, could have gone to America, but he chose Armenia. That's why they really are God's people.
They are apparently.
I'm just plugging that just in case the Armenian tourist board are watching this and decide they need because you can't do all the work. You need a help. You need an assistant.
Well, I do need help. But I've got to say, I had a conversation this morning actually, because as you know, Armenia Uncovered, the first one went on Amazon Prime. It's currently on Vimeo. You can watch it through my link tree.
Your documentary.
Yeah. But Armenia Uncovered 2, we were talking about it this morning, how we're going to move forward with that for next year. So we're filming it in August next year, and we're climbing Mount Ararat, believe it or not.
Is there enough going on in Armenia for 2 documentaries? Can you get 2 hours out of it? Well, you were struggling a bit with the last one, Kev. You were struggling a bit in the market. You were just chatting to people.
Well, that's
go away! I don't want to talk! Hey, hi, tell me, what is this? It's a chicken! Now you want a second one. It's like The Hangover. Come on, leave it at 1.
No, we're definitely doing 2. We might
uncover 12.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Do you know what's going to happen is they're going to go on a march of conquest. Armenia's going to start invading other countries just to give you material for your documentaries.
Well, if it gets to that, but to be honest with you, they were invaded last year by the Azerbaijanis, and we lost a little bit of our land, which I filmed in Armenia Uncovered 1, and it's actually we're thinking of going back and filming the places we've lost now as well, because but not that I really want to film that, because I think that's a lot of negativity. But there you go.
But it's Harry Potter's lot, isn't it? The Azerbaijanis. So you're up against wizards and witchcraft. All good. So, well, are you British or Armenian? What are you? How do you see yourself?
British. I'm British born, but I'm Armenian raised. So my first language is Armenian. My second language is Turkish. My third language is English, and my fourth was music. So that's how it came. That's the languages basically, and I couldn't speak a word of English till I was 4.
Right, but you seem to have made up for lost time, mate, because you are renowned for being very chatty and upbeat. And how do you think then? Are you now thinking in Armenian and translating it in your head, or do you?
No, I don't do that. I do think Armenian when I'm on stage, when I'm doing the character, because Armenians have a certain way of thinking, certain way of doing things, and it is very comedic. It is very comedic. And I'm talking most Armenians will laugh their backsides off when they watch what I do, because they can relate, But when I go to America and I do my stand-up comedy, I don't do the character. I just come out and talk like I'm talking to you right now. And I just do stories and whatever, because with the Armenian tour, I'm doing it again next year. Actually, we're putting it together right now. So I've got about 47 cities around the world that I'm going to be visiting with the Armenian tour that I'm doing. And honestly, it's so simple for the Armenians, because everything I talk about, they relate. So it's the thought process behind, say for example, COVID. It's the thought process behind COVID. Not one Armenian would have believed there was such a thing as COVID. Not one. Right? They would have gone around going, there's no such thing as COVID. Don't worry. Kiss me. Come here. Kiss me. Kiss me. And then when they finish kissing, they start coughing.
Yep.
What's good? It doesn't matter. Don't worry. Just take some nightmares. It's that kind of attitude. They don't care.
So when you were a kid then, did you feel different? Did you feel like an outsider?
Yes. And I was bullied like an outsider as well. So in school, I was very much picked on. I endured quite a bit of racism. Which I didn't take to heart really, because I didn't understand it. That was it. I didn't understand racism at the time. I didn't understand people calling me aluminium and calling me dwarf head and this and that. Whatever. I mean, I got abused massively, and I got bullied. I got bullied for 6.5 years. The physical aspect of it, I understood very well, and I endured. But the mental aspect of it, it didn't connect with me.
So why comedy? What made you decide on comedy, mate?
It was the easiest way of getting out of being bullied. So for me, when people were running after me, bullies basically, just guys and girls, and they would catch me, they would beat the crap out of me. I mean, I'd be beaten up. I'd have my face smashed in. I'd have my shoes stolen and thrown into the middle of the road. I'd be spat on. A couple of times, the compass, they used to stab that in the back of my head or in my back. I got severely bullied, John. And then the worst of it was when I got stabbed twice in the back and shot in the back. Twice in the arm and shot in the back once with an air rifle that a kid had brought into school, believe it or not. So
had he brought it in to shoot you, or was it just
No, he brought it in for a science project which the school allowed.
What kind of science project is shoot the Armenian? How does that work?
Apparently there is one, but yeah, no, he brought it in to shoot into a plasticine, which would then show us the momentum of speed with whatever
velocity, impact.
I didn't graduate science, but anyway, he then, as he was walking home, he just went, "Run," and I said, "What do you mean run?" He said, "Run, I'm gonna shoot you."
Hang on, run. You're like, I don't know. What language am I translating this into? Run. You go,
I know.
Armenian, this means food. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And then he just, I started running home, and he shot me straight in the back, and it hurt so much. I actually thought the actual bullet went into my back. Well, it's not a bullet, but a cap went into my back. But what it done was it hit really hard, and I had a bruise there for about 3 weeks.
Wow. And how was that received at home, or did you not tell people?
I never ever told my mum and dad.
Wow.
Yeah, when my mum once. She asked about the stab,
Yeah.
and I said that I said that a friend of ours accidentally got hit, and some of the glass went into my arm. That's how I covered that. I never ever told my parents I got bullied.
Wow.
I never did, because I didn't want them to know. Because I didn't know how they would take it, but also whether they would come to the school and they would speak to the school, and I couldn't afford for them to have done that. So I just basically kept it to myself. Even when I got handcuffed, actually, John, I got handcuffed once and I got beaten the crap out of, and the key to the handcuff they threw into the post box. So there was no physical way I was going to be able to get home. So I knew my mum would find out that I was being bullied. So what I did was, as I was handcuffed there, I had my hand, this hand was free, and I had a set of keys on me, and one of them, and I'm not making this up, one of them, a key to a piano, and it was our old piano, and believe it or not, scraping it on the side of the brick, I managed to scrape down the actual key, and it went into the handcuffs, and I managed to undo it. I think it took about 20-25 minutes, and then I ran all the way home, and I got home, and there was blood on my shirt and whatever, but I just ran home. I ran upstairs and I washed my shirt, and then I literally dried it on the radiator. I just held my hands on it, dried it as much as I could. Then I threw it into the washing basket so that my mum wouldn't see that I was beaten up, because there was blood all over it.
Wow. That's like a Shawshank, mate. That's like a film, isn't it? You still have the sense. Music literally saved you, didn't it? Music
and comedy, yeah. It saved me, yeah. So what I would do is, as bullies walked up to me, I'd go, hold on, I've got a joke. And then I'll tell them a joke. And if they liked it, they would actually walk away. They'd go, yeah, leave him, man. He's
and
funny.
if they didn't like it?
If they didn't like it, my rucksack would be in the middle of the road. My books would be in someone's front garden, and my face would be on the floor, and people been kicking me.
But you seem to have got beaten up quite a lot. Now, do you think that you could have taken the hint that you weren't very funny? Do you think that could have been like... Has it left you scarred? Has it impacted on you? Have you?
No, it didn't. It impacted me at the time, but it didn't scar me. I'm just, and I think about this often, John. But I don't know why it didn't scar me, because maybe I was blessed with such a positive outlook on life, that it was very quick for me to be able to forgive and forget. And the one bully that I did forgive and forget was the one that actually stabbed me, because after I left school, I worked in Millfield Theatre in North London, and he walked in, and he came up to the bar and he said, "Can I have 2 white wine spritzers?" And I turned around, and it was the guy that had stabbed me twice in art, and I went, "Oh, Jeff, how you doing, mate?" And he went, "Sorry, who are you?" And I went, "Kev," and he went, "Oh my God." Like that, and he went, "Oh my God!" And then he turned around to his boyfriend, and he said, "I used to bully him." And I said, "Yeah, he stabbed me twice in the arm." And his boyfriend went, "You're kidding me?" And I went, "No." And Jeff went, "Yeah, I'm really embarrassed by that." And I went, "You know what, mate? I forgive you." And I came round the bar, and I came over around to the other side. I grabbed him, I gave him a big cuddle, and I forgave him, and I forgave everything that had happened. And I realised why I forgave him very quickly was because he had a harder battle than me, because he was fighting his homosexuality.
So that's you all over, isn't it, mate? So, that's you. I'm going to come out there and stab you myself. That's you with your big heart. Come out here.
What kind of a presenter are you? I'll come out and stab you myself.
Hey, come out and stab them. This week's guest has been cancelled. He got on my nerves, so I stabbed him. So what was your first comedy gig? What was your first comedy experience?
Now that would have been, actually it was in school. It was in school. Yeah. So I would have been 16 in senior school, and 15. Apologies, I was 15, and they were doing a variety show at school, and I was working backstage doing the curtain going up and down, and kind of like for the interval for the beginning of Act 2. That's as much as they thought I was talented enough to give. And then lo and behold, they had about 20 minutes left, and the teacher came backstage and went, "Has anyone else got anything they'd like to do?" And I went, "Oh, I'll do something." And I walked on stage and I did about 8 minutes, which at the time I hadn't even thought about, but I did 8 minutes as what Freddie Starr had done with the fast forwarding and slowing down with and then a couple of other jokes. And I remember the joke I did as well. I went, "Hi, everyone." I said, "What's this?" a shy parrot. I remember doing that as a gag when I was a kid, and I don't know where I got that from, but that was one of my first jokes.
Wow. And then did you get the buzz for it? Did you get the drive straight away? And then why did you not decide to? Because you're a fantastic pianist, man. You know.
Yeah, but you know what? I graduated as a concert pianist when I was 16, 17, and I toured 3 years, just going up and down the country doing concerts and whatnot. And I got to be honest with you, mate. When you're practicing 10 hours a day, 5 hours blindfolded and 5 hours non-blindfolded, it's not pleasant. You want to go out and do what your mates are doing.
Mate, there's a lot of blindfolds and handcuffs in your past. I wasn't aware of this. I'm learning a lot about you. What's going on? So then, when did you decide that you was going to do the music and the comedy? How did that come about?
Oh, the music and comedy came a lot later because I did 10 years worth of musicals in the West End first. So I did I did all the musicals, like all the rock and roll musicals, Buddy Holly, Grease, Boogie Nights, Happy Days, and all them. Fame. I did all those, and then I got an opening via a great guy called John Conway, who basically he just turned around and said, I've got an opening in the Blackpool Comedy Bonanza because what was his name? The pianist comic. He did more comedy. More piano than comedy though.
Les Dawson.
Bobby Crush.
The piano comedy was big. I didn't know Bobby Crush did. Comedy.
Yeah. He did like, you know, he did a few bits. But anyway, he didn't want to be in the show. He pulled out. So I joined the show with the Nolan sisters, Jimmy Cricket and Billy Pearce, and John Inman.
Jimmy Cricket is one of our comedy heroes.
Yeah, Jimmy's amazing. And they took me under their wing. I died, by the way, John. I did 18 weeks in the Comedy Bonanza, and my little segment of 6 minutes of comedy didn't really work most nights. And then, lo and behold, I moved back into musicals again. I did Boogie Nights for another 2 years. And then I went into stand-up comedy because I practiced a bit more, and I went and supported Pasquale was my first support act that I supported him on our first tour together.
So how did you cope then when it weren't going? You're dying on your arse every night, and how did you cope with that then? How did you get through that?
You're learning. So for me, I didn't take it personally. I just died on my arse and I picked myself up, asked questions. I said to Jimmy Cricket, John Inman, Billy Pearce, what am I doing wrong? What should I do differently? Billy Pearce said, look, try this, try that. And I'm a quick learner, so I practice and practice and practice. And some nights went really well, some nights just nothing, nothing at all. So I kind of built, and I'll never forget, Bernie Nolan came up to me after one show when she came to support her sisters. And I said to her, what did you think of my act? And she went, you're shit. And that was it. And I know. And I mean, she laughed, I laughed. And then 4 years later, I was doing David Seaman's Safe Hands charity in Portugal. And I basically came out as this waiter. No one knew who I was except 3 people, and that was Bradley Walsh, Bernie Nolan, and Linda Lasardi, and of course David Seaman, who booked me. Yeah. And walked out, and I did my act. I did 30 minutes to a standing ovation. Everyone from Russ Abbott through to David Beckham. Wow. I mean, they were all there.
Brilliant.
And I did it, standing ovation. And then Bernie Nolan came up to me and she went, do you remember when I said you were shit? I forgot to add hot on the end of it.
Good. See, Irish charm.
It is.
The first time she saw you, she was rubbish. Did she say, that was so bad, I'm in the mood for dancing? Hey, I've got an idea for a song here. Are you responsible for the Nolan's biggest hit? Mate, you have your dark secrets. Do you think your bullying experience at school, do you think that prepared you for the tough life on the road and the emotional roller coaster that is stand-up comedy?
That's a really good question, John, actually.
Yeah, I've got a few, mate. I don't always just witter and talk about stabbing my guests.
But you know what? That question's quite interesting because did it make me who I am today? I don't know, but I can certainly tell you it was an influence, the whole thing with being bullied, because I thought differently. In school, I was afraid, but out of school, I was a hero to my friends, and my family always kind of encouraged me and you know what. But in school, I think the mindset was very different. And it's only when I left and went to college I realized that I was starting from scratch again, and this time I was a different person. So yeah, I think that might have played a big influence to me.
I wonder though if that, where we call that resilience, are we damaging our young people and our kids by not allowing them to work through those experiences, rather just wrapping them in cotton wool and diagnosing them?
Do you know what? Again, you're right. You're asking very good questions,
Mate. Do you know what I mean? I don't do it.
Do you know what? I mean, practice makes perfect, John. Well done. I think, I think we're so afraid of our children and young people being fragile, but to the point where they look at self-harm, they look at suicide, they look at mental health in a different way to what we did. And I think because we are so much more educated now in those subjects than we were, say, in the 70s and 80s and even early 90s, that I think we are looking at life differently now. And I think when you look at someone who is being bullied, when I was being bullied, I didn't tell anyone, but I worked through it. And yeah, you're right, there was resilience in that. But if my children are being bullied, I'd like to know. And if they are, I wouldn't necessarily go to the school, if I have to be honest with you. I'd try to understand the mentality behind why they're either being bullied or bullying, depending on what the situation was. Would I intervene? If it got serious, yes. But I think to wrap our children up in cotton wool only damages them in later life, because if you're not going to be able to handle criticism now as a child in a very childlike form, then I think as you get older, you're not going to be able to handle that any differently. And it's going to be more detrimental because you're going to be thinking more about a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And a lot of these people who now psychologically get mental abuse from the internet, Facebook, Twitter, social, I think it's horrendous. Whereas, I mean, you and I know, because there is a comic, you might know better than that, because I don't know who it was, but the comic that turned around and said, what was it? When children get bullied on social media, on Facebook, and they get blah, 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 and this and that, or Instagram or Twitter, and then they decide they want to commit suicide. I've got the solution to that. He says, switch your fucking computer off. Okay. Now, I like that. I don't know who said it, but I like that. And why I like that is because he's absolutely right. Switch it off.
Well, obviously, not entirely agreeing with them sentiments there, mate. Because obviously we're not clinicians or practitioners, so these it's just our opinions, obviously.
Yeah, but, of course.
I think it's important that we realise that there's a lot more going on when kids and people take their own lives. Just want to take this opportunity to give a quick mention to Luke Newman. For those of you who don't know Luke, he's a founder of something called For Men to Talk. Fantastic. If you go on Insta or Facebook, they're great. They've got loads of resources and that. He says he constantly asks his twin boys all the time if they're suffering on a weekly basis, because he was bullied at school as well. Now, Kev, you've got twins. How do you monitor whether they're getting bullied or not? How do you make sure then that they're all right? Do you check in on them? Do you do updates? Do you brief them? You Kev Orkian.
Actually, what I do is I'm their friend. So I talk to them. And that's usually more in the evenings when we do bedtime stories. And I tell them stories about things that have happened, but I put the bullying into those stories. So I talk about how daddy was bullied when he was younger and what the outcome was. And so I would turn around and say, and this boy bullied daddy and blah, blah, blah. But then daddy made friends with this bully. And the bully needed daddy because daddy was kind and he was caring, and he didn't want to hurt the bully. He wanted to care for the bully and blah, blah, blah. And what I try and do is make them understand that a lot of bullies are actually probably people or kids, necessarily at the moment, but kids for my children's age are kids that are probably seeing something at home or being bullied themselves, and they're just acting it out. And not necessarily every child that bullies is just a horrible little shit. They're not.
Yeah. It works hard with kids, isn't it? For people just joining us, welcome along to Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan. This week I'm talking to Kev Orkian. Hopefully you're listening to us on Facebook Live or Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, SoundCloud, wherever you're listening to us. You're very welcome. For the guys listening through our sponsors, WJ, the UK's leading road marking specialists. If you're in the depots listening to us on podcast, thanks for tuning in. If you ever get a chance to see Kev Orkian live, you are in for a real treat. This guy is pound for pound, as they say in boxing terms, one of the greatest performers in the country. You'll never hear people mention him in the same breath as McIntyre or Jimmy Carr, but McIntyre and Jimmy Carr wouldn't have put half as much food on the tables of most of the industry as this guy does himself. And part of the reason why, Kev, I think you're not more successful is because you don't have that ruthless, selfish, I'm going to stamp on you to get to the top mentality. In fact, I do often call him, liken him to Forrest Gump, because he spends half his time just seeing the nice things in people. So I can imagine when that guy pointed the gun at you, you were like, oh, he's pointing the gun at me. Hello. You always want to see the good in people.
I think at the time I was very frightened, but believe it or not, there was a comeuppance on that, because the young student that shot me 3 weeks later brought a bullet like that, a big one, which his father had collection of.
Nice.
And he put it on a milk bottle. Do you remember the old glass milk bottle?
Mm-hmm.
And he put it into that. He managed to sellotape it or gaff it, or I can't remember what he did, but managed to do it. And went to a park. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah,
not through it. No, not through it.
No?
He put it under a seesaw. Under a seesaw.
Oh wow! Yeah. Okay.
And exploded, and half the bottle went into his leg.
Oh, Darwin Awards recommendation there. Definite Darwin Awards. Just want to say a quick hello to a few people that are listening to us. Because of the way StreamYard works, we don't see all the comments that people make. But Bill and Ash, thanks for coming along. That's my cousin. Marie, my other cousin, she's here as well. Andy Ray, the magician, he's here. I'd like to get him on as a guest. He can only see out of one eye at the moment, so I wish him well. John Potter is there as well. Libby Byrne and Shane.
I like John.
Yeah, great. A lot of good people. So, and it's interesting hearing you talking, because we see the funny guy on stage. We see the director of Britain's biggest building comedy network. You star in pantos, you rock the cruise ships, but ultimately you're just this bloke. And how does Kev the bloke cope? You know, how do you do offstage? So you're now in Thursford having this glamorous life, 2 shows a day, 7 shows a week for the next 9 weeks. £250,000. No, you're there all this time, right? You're going to be there on your own. How are you going to stay mentally strong? What's going to stop you cracking up or, starting to get the blues? Apart from the fact I'm going to message you most days, you know that.
Well, you do that anyway, especially when I was in quarantine for 10 days. I think you and I became a great writing team for some of the comedy that I ended up performing on Instagram. But you know what? I think anyone who endures that long a contract, 2 shows a day, every single day, no breaks, right through from November the 9th to December the 23rd, it's a massive amount of work to take on, mentally, physically, and it does get lonely. And I'm in this little, I've got this wonderful little accommodation right here now that I only just moved into today, this evening. And it's beautiful, but it's lonely, and it's out in the sticks somewhere. I think the closest shopping centre is about 5 miles away. It's very quiet. And how do I keep myself sane? I write, I connect with people like you. I stay in touch with my family, my children, my wife, and I try and do the best I can with it, John, because at the end of the day, this is my career. This is what I'm doing. This is the side of my personal career. This is away from all the businesses that, I run and I team up with, that you've mentioned. And you've got to do what you've got to do. But mentally, talk. I think talking is incredibly powerful.
And then how do you then look after your physical health, mate? What do you do? So you'll be there. You'll be running around the stage like a blue-arsed whatever. How do you make sure that you're eating well and doing the exercise in it? What's the plan? Oh, hello.
So in here, I've got all the healthiest foods. The tomatoes, I've got cucumbers, I've got ginger, which I put into hot water and I do it for breakfast. I've got in my blueberries with yogurt. I've got all very, very healthy food in here. I've got yogurts. And everything that I eat is very healthy. And
yeah,
it's beef-free, pitta. So there's no carbs, no sugar, nothing like that, and plenty of water. And that's how I keep myself healthy.
So we know, or maybe people tuning in right now, listening to me, John Ryan, talking to the fantastic Kev Orkian, great comedian, and all the rest of it. But comedians have got shorter lifespans, right? And this research is fairly recent. As you know, I do kind of with comedy. I do the academic side as well, so I do research and the rest of it. So I'm not making stuff up. I talk to experts. I'm not a practitioner or a clinician, but it's been shown. Study Aberystwyth University, I think it was, probably about 2 years ago now, and they looked at investigating the relationship between humour and health. Okay, and what was interesting with that was they found that life expectancy for comics. 67.1 years, and that's like 3 years younger, 4 years younger than average life expectancy for Joe Public. And yeah, you know, if you look at the lifestyle, so you're isolated, so that puts you at risk. You are away from home, that puts you at risk as well. You're from an immigrant community, puts you at risk. You're separated from the kids, so you got this wrench, because I know how important your kids and Michelle are to you. So you got that as well. Mate, I'm just going to make you depressed now. Anyway, good night. But how do you, what are you going to do for that? So you've shown us the fridge is full of stuff. What's the secret? What are you going to do? How are you going to cope with it?
The secret is to always have a positive mindset and a positive outcome to your mindset. We can be very, very, very easily led into being negative. And I spoke to you the other day about that thought that I had in my head, that I found out had come from the news that I subconsciously had sunk it into my mind, this negative news about a father who had hurt his son. And then I had these thoughts about the same thing about my son. And I was like, where's this coming from? And I didn't realize it till I actually backtracked and realized that news. And the only reason I remembered it is because it came up again in Yahoo News or Google News, whatever it was. And I was like, oh my God. And it's funny, isn't it, how very quickly negativity can be adopted into the mindset. And I think positive thinking is something you have to train your mind to do every single day, John. Because if you don't, you allow your brain, you allow your mind to go to the negative. And let's be honest with you, once you think of one negative thought, like, oh my God, the traffic is horrendous, right? And as you're driving, oh, the traffic's horrendous. Oh, this is going to be terrible. I'm not going to get there on time. Oh, I'll tell you what's going to happen. My car's now going to break down. All I need now is my wheel to burst. And this happens and that happens, or someone to cut me up. And then everything you're thinking, every negative thought you're thinking, you're actually putting it out there. So the magnetic attraction is going to come back to you, where you might actually break down, or your wheel might get burst, or someone might cut you up, or you get to the venue and there's no parking, etc., etc. So when that happens, negativity can come like a waterfall, whereas positivity you have to work at. It's a different ballgame. Positivity, because we're not genetically engineered that way. So I think if we think more positively, more positive outcomes, that helps you with your mindset.
So it's interesting to talk about positivity, and we talk about isolation in the lives of comics, because we've both worked with the military entertaining the troops, and in our chat box at the moment, Sean Durkin, thanks for coming along, Sean. This guy's he's served his country, he's been away, he's been isolated, and the parallels are so similar until you realize that the squaddies, they're surrounded by supportive mates and they've got things to do. But we, on the other hand, so I'm doing like 2 weeks on a cruise ship, mate, and I'm already thinking, oh man, why did I agree to it? And you know, it's a free holiday with pay on a luxury cruise liner where you can eat and drink all day. But my thing is, oh man, I'm gonna be on my own for 2 weeks. Now I like my own company, but because I like my own company, I don't want to be that person that I'll just sit and read books, And so I'll actively try to then engage with other performers, with some of the passengers, some of the crew if I know them, and I'll keep in touch with home. I'll do the internet 150 quid for 2 weeks, and everyone else go, oh, you're mad, what are you doing? But it's that thing of, that's what gets me through it.
Yeah.
Bernadette Foggett has just come on, and a really good point she's making. Some men are shy, don't know how to talk about their feeling. What advice can you give to partners in that? to get to open up, Kev, right? And men who have to be strong for their family. How do we get guys talking? What do you think is the secret?
There isn't one. There isn't a secret. It's the mindset that if you talk, then you're weak. And once you get rid of that stupid mindset of, if I talk, then I'm going to be very vulnerable, and my mates are going to take the pee out of me because I'm telling them that I'm worried about, my something to do with my genitalia, or something to do with my mindset, or something to do with my girlfriend, or something to do with my children, or so, whatever the case may be. All of it, if they just put it into their mind that everywhere around the world, every single man suffers from something. If we can start talking like that and say, do you know what? I've got issues where I'm really upset by my wife, and I feel jealous by this and that. Well, let's talk about it then, because if you're jealous about your wife, then there must be a problem with you feeling jealous. Let's see what it is and talk. But men won't talk like that, and then ultimately, what happens? They get angry, they get jealous, and then they do something they regret. And I think,
I've got a great question here from Bill, but it's Ashley White, really. What's the worst thing about being a comedian? That's a good question.
That's a great question.
What do you think the worst thing is about it?
The worst thing about being a comedian, for me, has been a difficult question to answer right now, because I don't think there is anything. Oh, there is one. Okay, there is one. Okay, but it's not just for comedian, really. It's for all performers. But the one thing that I do think has become even more difficult as time has gone on is criticism.
Ooh.
Because a lot of comedians, they put themselves out there and they don't care. They say, I don't care about criticism. If the reviewer is going to come in saying that I'm rubbish, then who cares? Or this is going to happen, who cares? But the fact remains, we're not robots. And we do have feelings. So when someone comes in and says, I think you were rubbish, or you didn't make me laugh, or I think you're the worst accents, sliced bread and this and that, whatever. Those things you go, yeah, whatever. But they play on your mind. And you go home, or when you're driving home, or whatever you're doing, it regurgitates at some point. And it becomes more difficult when you have another difficult show, or you have another show that you didn't do well, because then what that person said starts having gravitas to it, and you go, oh, maybe they were right, oh my god, and then it plays on your mind. So I think criticism is quite a difficult one for most performers, and for comedians particularly.
So it's interesting because James Peters has just popped up, and James, as we know, he's going to be starting a comedy career himself soon, so it's good to have you on here, James. Thanks for coming along. I want to also Luke, so Luke's organisation, which I have nothing to do with, but I do support because I think it's fantastic, for Men to Talk. He's saying that they do this weekly for Men to Talk virtual meetings. So if you go, Luke, tell us how people get into them. Is it Instagram, Facebook, or however it is, and we'll put it up so that people can see. One of the interesting things about this kind of isolation is that we get time to think, right? So last week, as you know, because you sent me there, I went to Vienna, and I was meant to go to Bratislava, and if all had gone well, I would have been in Bratislava. However, there was a muck-up, and I ended up taking a later flight and going to Vienna, which meant that I woke up in Vienna on the morning of the anniversary, 6th anniversary of my mum's passing away.
Right, you were telling me this,
and this really, I'd completely put it out of my mind. And the last time I was in Austria, I was with my mum. And so I had this kind of massive sort of emotional moment of realizing, wow, But, I just thought, well, that's her, because she's always thinking, I'll haunt you. She'd go, I'd haunt you. And I don't really I talk about her on stage, but I don't actually sit and think about her and miss her and dwell on it. Well, I still get that kind of, from time to time, quite upset about it. When I was a kid, she, for some reason, I think when she was carrying my sister, she got into the music of Johann Strauss. And last time I was in Austria, she wanted McDonald's. So we went to McDonald's with me and her and the kids, which was very bizarre because she never gave us McDonald's when we were kids. And when I said that to her, like, we never had McDonald's, she went, well, you still turned out fat. So she had that kind of acerbic wit. So there I am. I thought, I'll go and find a McDonald's before I get onto the fantastic TUI boat that you got me the gig on. And I got out of this boat and I was looking around and I heard the music of the Blue Danube, and I was actually on the Danube. And so I was confronted with the fact that, obviously my mum's not here and she's not here, she's never going to be here. But I was confronted with it in a way that didn't make me angry for the first time in 6 years. Because normally I think about her and I want to just go smash her all there. I'd still have that rage inside of me, which we never talk about with regard to bereavement. Now, this coincides with also last week, our good friend Phil Butler passing away. And I know that hit you very badly.
It did, yeah.
And how will that affect you? And how do you think that will change, or what impact will it have on you over the coming days, weeks, and months?
It affected me incredibly negatively, actually. First of all, I got very upset. There he is there, God bless him. First of all, I got very upset. Then I got very, very angry. And my wife, she's awesome, my wife. And she said to me, you kept saying he's become the statistic. And that's all I kept saying while I was crying. And I was quite inconsolable, actually. It took me 3 or 4 hours to come round properly because I was very angry. And I was angry, John, because a wonderful talent like Phil died unnecessarily, in my mind. And I'll tell you for why. Because he was on a cruise that we had put him on, thanks to the wonderful, one of my team members called Marilyn. She put him on there after he begged and said, I really want to try the British ships. It took us 2 years to get him on there. They wouldn't put him on there. And we finally got him on it. And he went on and he complained about his arm.
Yeah.
Elbow. Yeah. He complained. Yeah. He said, it's hurting. I wonder if this is the sign of me having a heart attack. He's on a ship, for Christ's sake, where there's a doctor 2 minutes away. He could have gone. He could have spoken to them. He could have spoken outright. But instead, from what we gather, according to the cruise director, he just, and shrugged it off and went, no, it's right. And that's the problem with men, not just with Phil, but with men. Yeah.
When was the last time you went to the doctors, Kev?
The last time I went was for my blood sugars, and that was that would have been in January, February, I think it was, when I went for my blood sugar. Yeah. I had
and you then put it into action. You there were concerns, and you put them into action, didn't you?
Totally, yeah. I had a pain here, which was really hurting me. So I went to the doctors, spoke to him, took my blood, took my urine sample, turned around and said, your blood sugar is horrendous, your cholesterol is horrendous. You are now officially, he said, after 2 years of being a type 2 diabetic, you are now officially on the road to damaging your eyesight, damaging your legs. He said blood clots, this and that, whatever. So I changed my entire lifestyle. Thanks to him, I changed it on February the 4th. And it took me 3 months to lose 3 stone, which is why I do this healthy lifestyle now, this keto lifestyle. And I haven't looked back. I don't drink alcohol, except I drink red wine. That's the only thing I drink. And I drink maybe 2 glasses a week. The rest of it, green tea and water.
So, I mean, as you know, I do a lot of men's health sessions, comedy sessions. And I tell guys, statistically, 1 in 5 men won't make it to age 65. And Phil, 51. And, of course, another good friend of ours, Paul Eastwood, passed away last month, 47, 48.
Sunday.
This Sunday in Cromer, they're doing a show to raise funds for the fantastic hospital that cared for him in the last few weeks. So we've had these 2 mates in the space of a couple of months. Plus, I had another friend who wasn't a comedian, but all these guys around 50, and they all not here anymore. Now, Paul's was different because his was an accident, but Phil and Paul, other Paul, it's a thing about get yourself to the doctors, it's get yourself checked out. It always fascinates me that guys will take their cars to the garage, but they won't take themselves to the doctors. It's just a very, very, it's just very, very, very strange. It's just not.
It is strange, but it's also, I think, you know. All right, I'm really gonna go. Sorry, I just had to plug my phone in because it was dying. I have to say, and I'm going to come at this at a really different angle. But yes, one, we don't talk, and we don't talk about our issues and our problems. And like you just said, we would take our car to the garage to be fixed, but we wouldn't take ourselves. And I think that is inbred into us from our fathers and our grandfathers and whatever, because we looked up to them as heroes. And I think for me, I was really against this whole, and I'm going a different angle here, John, so go with me on it.
Yeah.
But racism has come from learning from your father or your grandfather, etc., etc. The reason I say that is because I know guys that go to football stadiums who have their children with them, but they still shout abuse, and they still, with all due respect, I'm not saying who they are, but people.
No, it's leading by example.
Leading by example. That's exactly what I was trying to get to. Well done. So now look at my father and look at my grandfather. My grandfather, I don't think he ever went to hospital. My father, he had an elbow ache. I'll never forget it. He said, I think this is tennis elbow. And he cried once in my entire life of knowing him. He cried once because he said that pain's too hard. And he never went to the hospital. And my mum never sent him.
Wow.
And then he ended up in hospital. Many, many years later, ended up in hospital. And I went to see him. And he had turned it completely around, because this will make you laugh. He turned it completely around. And I said to him, how are you, Dad? He was having a prostate check. And he had some issues. He had a very flared prostate. And I said to him, how are you, pup? And he went to me, you know what? For 63 years, I was doing okay. Now, in 1 week, 5 different men stick fingers up my ass. What is going on? And he made a whole comedy out of it.
Brilliant.
But he was actually very, not hurt, but his ego was crushed because
so humiliated. Do you think then? Because I always ask for a tip for well-being. Would your tip be to laugh or to be positive? What would you say to people, as if you could give them one message to take away to help them with their well-being?
To help them with their well-being, I would say every morning, the moment you open your eyes, for about 10 or 15 minutes, just think the world, the greatest place it could be for you.
Okay, I've written that down. I'm going to have that as a Kev Orkian special. And then generally in life, if someone points a gun at you and says, run, don't go, are you going to shoot me? But run. I think that's different. We've learned that from you. If you watch MacGyver and learn how to carve keys into tools that you can open handcuffs with.
MacGyver was definitely one of them.
And then if you do find yourself handcuffed like Kev did and you can't remember the safety word, search your pockets for keys. That would be a good one. Kev, so I've put your website up there, kevlive.com.
Oh, I've just seen it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I want to also, if it's all right, is to put up the For Men to Talk, Luke Newman's fantastic site, For Men to Talk. And I will put that in the comments as well so people can see it. But all the guys on there, have a go at that. And there's also a great Facebook group called Men Let's Talk, which is run by Keith and Israel. And they're really, really good guys. I want to kind of let Bernadette have the final bit here. Do you think the young boys of today regret accepting mental health as a normal part of life as a result of the work we're doing to kill stigma? She sees change, but would it be great if a generation of men could make talk about mental health and well-being so normal our sons and grandchildren don't have to go through this? Kev, I think you've shown that you are an example of someone who can talk. You're more than just a comic. You are the difference, and you are greatly loved and appreciated. And not many people can say that, mate. I want to wish you the very best with your theatre run. You know I'm going to talk to you most days anyway.
Totally. You're mentioning this, and I'm like, in about 10 hours, we're going to be talking again. All right.
But mate, stay safe, and it's been an absolute pleasure as always talking to you, man. I could talk to you all day. You take care, mate.
You know I do. I love it, and thank you, everyone, and good luck, Luke, with your project as well, mate.
Cheers, mate. All the best. That was the fantastic funny man, Kev Orkian, who, like I say, the guy's he's given up his time to come and talk to me, talk to us. He is going to be starring in a show twice a day, 7 days a week for 9 weeks. He'll be feted, he'll be well paid, he'll be revered, he'll get fantastic reviews. And then he'll go back to a small apartment on his own. When the music stops, that's when the silence gets deafening. So it's important that we realize that some people are on their own. I will be messaging him every day, because I always do. When he was in isolation, we had a great time during lockdown. He came back, he had to go to a hotel for 2 weeks. And every morning I'd set him tasks and he would perform little Instagram videos. And he got so good at it, he now does them. I will be going away for 2 weeks on my own. That'll be the longest time I have been on my own, away from, Tasha or the family, ever, in 20 years. But, needs must. But I'm not saying that, I'm going to be my own, where's me? I will have strategies in place to make sure that I get through it and I come out the other side positive. Because obviously it's fantastic. These gigs are brilliant. We travel the world. The glamour of the kind of lifestyle isn't always quite what people try to paint it as. But we do have ways of dealing with it. And each week, as you know, we get our guests to give us their top tips for well-being. And I do collect them. Maybe one day we'll put them in a book or something, or we'll do them in a pamphlet and sell them for charity. I don't know. Could be worth doing, couldn't it? Kev's top tip there, every morning, just think positive. It's funny because every night before I go to sleep, I go back over what I've done today. Have I done all right? Have I helped people? Have I hurt anyone? Have I upset anyone? Is there something I could have done better? And every morning when I wake up, I start the day by thinking, what do I have to do today? How am I going to do it today? And I honestly never wake up intending to upset anybody at all. I want to thank everyone for coming along and listening. This show will be released again next Monday, 7 a.m., I think 7 p.m. So do have a listen if you've just caught the end of it, because Kev is well worth a listen. Do have a look at his website, kevlive.com. Big thank you to everyone who took time to leave comments in the box. Ricky's here. Ricky! God, where have you been, mate? Ages I've been waiting to see you. Ricky's put up a link to Gardening for Health, a fantastic organisation. And I want to thank everyone who took time to leave comments in the box. My own take on it, it's difficult, isn't it, really? I'm not a practitioner. I'm not a clinician. I am, of course, the winner of an Ethical and Psychological Contribution Award last week, which I'm dead chuffed off, thanks to the organisation that gave it to me, APA. Dana Alexander had some great tips, really good tips. Companionship, having someone to share your journey. But what if you can't have someone to share your journey? Well, Sol's tips. Sol, if you remember, talked about his battle with and his suicidal thoughts. He said life isn't always easy, but Wilson kind of suggested that keeping yourself physically fit is always going to help. Andre, trouble shared, trouble halved. Gribbo's top tips, don't be too hard on yourself. Great. Steve Best was quite practical, talked about top tip, good breathing. And Dave Ward talked about the need for a routine and a structure. What works for one person might not work for everybody else. For me, as I always say, stay positive, have positive people in your life. Don't procrastinate. If you want to get something done, try and do it. Because tomorrow, like we found out with the great Phil Butler, who just passed away, and of course Paul Eastwood, who we lost about 6-8 weeks ago now. The last time I saw Phil Butler was at Paul Eastwood's funeral. And I did remember quite clear, Paul Eastwood's funeral was beautiful, moving, very, it was great fun. It was just a great day, and Paul would have loved it. And I did say to Phil, I hope to see you soon. And Phil, being Phil, said, do you know what? I want a funeral as good as this. And I said, well, I hope that I don't live to see it. And unfortunately, I was wrong, because he's not with us anymore. And neither is Paul. But you guys are. And I want to thank you all for being there. And this is very supportive for me as well, and very therapeutic as well. Thank you so much for continuing to support Reading the Signs. A big thank you to our sponsors, WJ. We'll be back next Monday with another fantastic guest. In the meantime, stay safe, guys.
Well, that's the end of another episode of Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan. We're here every Monday night at 7 p.m, talking with comedians, about mental wellness, mental well-being, and just trying to get the conversation going. What we're trying to do is show that it's good to talk, and we're also trying to show that everybody can go through the same experiences. A massive thank you to the WJ Group who sponsored the show, showing their commitment not just to mental well-being, but also to reaching as broad an audience as possible. It's great to be part of the mensradiostation.com family, so do check us out on the website, on social media. We'll be back next Monday. You take care. Stay safe, everybody.